Hello everyone, this is David Morning, and this is my learning walkthrough for my inclement weather unit that I created. So I decided to create a unit on word problems focusing on third grade math in the third grade math curriculum. So this is the stream. So I used Google Classroom because in my district we use Chromebooks and students are able to access Google Classroom and any Google resources that are created. So this is what students see when they first log in. Now, before I begin, there's a little disclaimer because I was not able to do much with my students only because we didn't have school on Monday, we didn't have school today, and yesterday we got out early. So the only thing students were really able to do was just kind of look at the course itself, the organization of it, and complete the pre-assessment portion. So I'll share their reactions and their scores a little bit later. So you can see this is the stream for Google Classroom. Now, Google Classroom is very asynchronous, meaning so in order to make it synchronous and make sure that students don't go completing some of the other modules before they complete the first module, you would have to insert those links and those discussions and those assessments after they complete the first module or the second module. However, what you see right now on the left-hand side with the topics, you can see that I have all of the links and discussions and overviews already embedded into the site, into the Google Classroom. So it's very asynchronous. There's not much ability to make it synchronous. I can't really set my content up where the students have to complete all module 1 before they access module 2, and that's just kind of how Google Classroom works. But I can set it where there's due dates, so the students has to complete so many activities of module 1 at an earlier due date before they go to module 2, which could be a later due date. That's just kind of how it's set up. So focusing on the QM and the QM standards. So on the About page, I have posted for my students all the goals, objectives, outcomes, and as well as the Module 1, Module 2, Module 3 overviews. That just really focuses on like the 3.5 standard for QM standards, where the students are required, or the teachers are required to give the students those clear expectations of what is expected. However, for me, I really gave my expectations to my students before I allowed them to go on to the course. Like I said, I have third graders, and this is pretty much the first time they've ever been introduced to any type of online learning. So I wanted to give those expectations to them in person because I guarantee that maybe 2 or 3 of my students at most would actually come to this About page and really read everything of what is expected for them. A lot of the other students are just very curious about getting into each of the modules and doing the content and the assessments that are given to them. But also, all my tools focusing on the QM standards, standard 4.7, everything is really reachable to my students. There's lots of additional resources. So at the bottom down here, you can see I also have embedded some additional resources, additional games, additional assessments that the students can complete on their own if they wanted some extra practice. I also have some math manipulatives here that the students can use for like calculators or anything else that they might need if they don't have those tools already at home. Also, QM Standard 8.2, I don't really have any accommodations for my Google Classroom, only because I really know my students and what they need. They don't really need a lot of accommodations. The only accommodation that I wish I would have a little bit is the overviews and the assessments and the problems read to some of my students, just because I know some of them are in like Title I and things like that. So that accommodation would be very helpful to have for my students. But again, that's not something Google Classroom really provides within their Google Classroom environment. Also, QM Standard 5.2, focusing on the ability that students can interact with one another. I have this classroom parking lot, which was pretty cool. It's called todaysmeet.com. You can set it up where you can have the classroom set up for a specific time period. But if you click on it, the students can put in their nickname and they can interact with one another. You can see I just named it Inclement Weather Chat Room. All you have to do is embed the URL into your classroom where students can access it, and they can talk to one another and ask each other questions, which a lot of students that have used it yesterday very briefly. They thought that portion of it was pretty cool. Also, I have a lot of assessments, standard 3.5 in the QM standards. I have a lot of discussion posts. I have the pre-assessment. On the left-hand side, you can see the different modules. Each module is very predictable. So this is something that I thought was this would be kind of the praise portion of this learning walkthrough. The organization of my Google Classroom was very predictable. The students have the ability to kind of see the same thing throughout each module. And at the beginning of each module, you have the module overview. After the overview, you have a lesson video that I was able to record myself using some resources that were already given to me. Then after they do the video, they have an independent work. After the independent work, there's a discussion post. And at the end, there's some type of activity or assessment that I would like the students to complete. Module 1 are just word problem games that kind of focus on practicing what the students have already been learning throughout the Module 1. Module 2 is using a resource we use at school called Zearn, where the students can go in and do some online learning, and a tower power, which is they have to complete so many problems to master the tower, which students really enjoy doing. And I can set that up where I want students to focus on specific skills. And also Module 3, at the very end, again, everything's predictable. Everything looks the same. Module 3, they actually have to create a word problem where if you click on the link here, I already have a template set up, so this is called Draw.io. It's a Google platform, activity program where students can type in the word problem, use the tools to model their word problem, and then write a sentence for the word problem. And then when they're done, they could share their URL, their own word problem to the class where other students in the class can interact and look at it as well. But going back to my assessment portions, the only thing that really students were able to complete so far in my Getting Started page is the pre-assessment. Again, you can see, so I had 8 students in this course enrolled. Only 4 of them were really able to complete it so far, but they did pretty well with it. I was already able to grade some of their scores and show how they completed it. You can see how one student was able to complete the inclement weather. Oops. I'll show you one of theirs. So you can see they did do some of the things I asked them to do. They used their letter. They were able to multiply. They were able to figure out the answer to some of the problems. Not as in-depth as I would like them to do. So that, again, this is the pre-assessment. As they go on, they'll learn more, how to go more in-depth with their explanations and things like that. So I was kind of unsure how they would do with the Google Classroom, the Google Docs. And they did pretty well with it. They were able to type in their responses better than I thought they would do, again, because this is their first time doing it. So although I'd only really had a little bit of time with them to complete their Google Classroom page, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue allowing them to do more with it. I really want to see how they'll interact with everything they see on the Google Classroom page. These snow days just kind of put a burden to what I would like to do with them. But they didn't like it so far, so a lot of the time I spent with them was just kind of the expectations, the etiquette. Again, I don't really have that posted anywhere on the Google Classroom page, but I wanted to share that etiquette with them via in person because, again, they never experienced anything like this before. but they liked the organization of it, how every module kind of followed the same pattern: the overview, the lesson video, the independent work, the discussion, and then the activity at the end. I also have this need help portion of it where they can comment or email me. I have an email link here where students can email me if they have any questions. Again, I don't really have much data to support how they felt about it, just because of the limited time, but I'm not going to stop. I want to continue using this platform with my students. I want to see what they can do with it, because one of the things that I'm pondering is that I'm wondering how else I can use Google Classroom. I want to do it more in the classroom. I want to do it more with my students. I want to see how well they are going to do with this content, and maybe next year I can make an enrichment class of some sort where students can interact with each other during Math Center time, where they can do more independent activities at a higher level. So it's a lot of things that I'm wondering, and I'm really glad I'm taking this class because it's allowing me the opportunity to really dive into Google Classroom, because it's something that I wanted to do. So it's something that I really want to start using more in my classroom and introducing students to this online environment, whereas they never had that opportunity before. And it's where education is moving. It's the wave of where it's taking us. We're doing more online learning, using more online tools and technology, and I want students to experience and be exposed to that. And that is my learning walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed using Google Classroom. If you're curious about using and accessing my Google Classroom, you can go onto the discussion posts and find my access code. This access code is a little bit different because I had to transfer everything over to the Google Drive where my district is using, but the access code is in previous posts. It'll look a little bit different from this one just because this is for my students, not for the ACT course. So I hope you enjoyed.